For all you listening out there, I think we're gonna do the Spotify or not Spotify. I already screwed up. Skype song.
Let's start over.
The intro song. Hey, I know that guy over there.
Yeah. Hey, we're
end.
Skyping.
We're Skyping.
Yeah.
Hey, I think I know who you are, though. I think your name is Erik.
That's right. And you are Dan.
I am Dan. And we're each other, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
I think I'm going to start using that as sort of this intro. Because then when we actually become famous and rich, and we actually have like...
I like where this is going.
We actually have... like merch.
Oh, yeah.
That could be like our catchphrase. We're each other.
Wow. That's nice. Yeah. It's sweet.
Yeah, it's really, really, it's heartwarming, isn't it?
Yeah. Heartwarming, as it were.
Heartwarming. Heartwarming. Dude, that is a title of anything.
I'm full of them. Just let me talk and write it down. That's it.
Heartworms are like weird. Like are they actual worms that get inside like animals?
Yeah. They're gross.
Okay. Have you ever actually seen one?
I mean, just pictures.
Yeah.
I don't remember. There's a lot of things that I don't remember from when I was a kid that I saw out on like the farm that I'm sure I've just blocked completely. Like just gross animal stuff, I didn't grow up on a farm, but my cousins did. And so I spent a lot of time there, but.
Gotcha. Yeah. Same here. I grew up, in Muscatine, in the town, but I had a lot of, basically all the males in my family were either farmers or military men. And so I grew up being kind of like me and like my other cousin, Kevin, who you probably remember. He was the bassist of Dr. Minimus. Kevin and I we were kind of like the two outcasts of the family, I think, sort of. I don't know. Maybe nobody else saw it that way, but I saw it that way.
Yeah.
And so basically I was always met every holiday season with like my step grandpa, when are you going to play football, Danny? People in the family, they thought I was weird because I wasn't like playing football because of my size.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
And that was the only reason that, they thought I should be playing football was because of my size. And it's like, well, what are you going to do?
You're too goddamn big to do anything but play football.
Exactly.
That's how it was for me too, for real.
And I love how it's like, you're too goddamn big to not be playing football. It's like, you're too damn big to do anything, but it's like, you want me to actually get on a field and run. That just wasn't going to happen in high school,
I played up through middle school, and it was okay. It sucked because I was big, so the people that I went up against were really big people. And I was in wrestling as well, and it was I was like this little chub, 185 pounds of just little middle school chub versus this guy that basically was a senior in high school, but was still in 8th grade, that kind of thing. Cause our weights were comparable, Yeah. And so I just got, beat up a lot in sports. I just wasn't good at it. I tried, but didn't take, as it were.
I remember coaches were just mean growing up.
Yeah.
I remember I went out for baseball when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade or whatever, and this big ball. Well, it's not big, a small baseball, but small compared to a basketball, but it's being thrown, at top speed basically, and I'm sitting there with the glove covering my face, because I don't want it to hit my face. And I remember the coach yelled at me and was like, I don't give a good goddamn if it hits your face. I just want you to catch the ball.
Jeez,
like,
nice.
actually said that to like a second grader, you know. And then my parents were like, they were like upset at me for quitting. Like they didn't understand why I wanted to quit baseball.
Yeah.
I just was not a sports dude, like, at all,
No.
you know, growing up. And it was hard being, like, this size. And as you said, Eric, I know you can relate. It's hard being this size, being, like, a big kid that's not into sports in a small town.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, because everybody wants you to be that. It's pretty crazy. And that actually... segues very, very good into like this thing that I've been thinking about lately. And that's the concept of school and how strange the concept of school overall really is. Just how, okay, I don't know why this occurred to me the other day when I was driving in my vehicle, but isn't it strange that we are forced to basically go into this, I don't know, what better way to describe it than institution for like 13 years of our lives. And that's literally the only existence we know in those 13 years. And then we're just expected to like leave that
Yeah.
and figure it out from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's
think
so
the leaving
weird.
part is sort of the weird part. I mean, school in essence is sort of weird, but I don't know of a better way to do it, you know? But then, yeah, when you graduate, you're just kind of like dumped, you know? That's actually how I felt after graduation. I was like lost. I was like, well, I don't know what to do. All my friends were at that place and all of the things I did and my social life. I didn't study or do well in school, but I had a lot of fun, you know? And then all of a sudden it was just like, oh my God, what do I do with my life, you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, it is weird for sure.
Well, and it's one of those things where it's like they build you up for almost this like idea that, you know, you're going to go to college and you're going to get this wonderful job, you know, from college. And it's like the reality is that most of the people that I know that went to college, they ended up in debt and miserable without the job that they went to school for.
yeah.
I mean, that seems to be the reality. And I'm not knocking anybody who goes to college because I wish that I would have gone to college, or I would have stuck with it. I actually did go to college for a semester and a half, but I goofed off and dropped
Yeah.
out. And anyway, like, I think that's interesting. Like, when you think about, it's like this whole like concept of school, like it's interesting. For 13 years, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. It seems like that's your world. Like, you're going to be just like hanging out in your room with your friends at 4:00 in the afternoon after every school day. You'll have weekends off. You'll have Christmas vacation, and you'll have summers off.
Yeah.
And that it just seems like that's going to be like your existence. And then all of a sudden, you're 18 years old, and it's like, get out of here.
Beat it, you
You
bum.
know? Yeah, beat it, you bum. I wish that they would talk to kids like that.
That's exactly how I remember high school.
I do remember there were some teachers that definitely had a very gravelly tone to their voice.
And don't come
Like
back.
Tom,
That's what
what's-
they said
Don't come
as I walked across the stage to get my diploma.
And you gotta, and they're like kicking you out, literally out
Yeah.
the door.
Yeah.
Like you're flying onto the ground.
It wasn't
Like,
that
you know.
different than that for real, my experience. They wanted me gone. I was a very poor student. But
I think of like, this is going to be a weird, random, I guess, comparison, but you remember Old Dirty Bastard,
yeah,
ODB?
from high
the
school.
Wu-Tang
Oh,
Clan?
from the Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah.
From high school.
I thought you were talking about my art teacher.
No, well, there were art teachers that were very, very crude
No
at
names.
Muscatine High School. I think we already mentioned his name.
What? No.
I think in a previous episode, I think we did mention his name. I think so.
Well,
Or
damn.
maybe we talked. Maybe it wasn't like on the actual podcast. Maybe it was one of our.
There's your
off-
extra content, y'all.
Yeah, there's your extra
exclusive
content that you won't
You'll
ever
find
hear.
out the art teacher's name.
Yeah, the art teacher's name. Those of you like Sean Reed would know exactly who we're talking about
Yeah.
from last week. Which, by the way, if you haven't listened to that episode, I don't know what is wrong with you.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
it was a nice conversation we had with Sean. It was great.
Very, very fun.
Yeah.
But
But
no,
ODB,
okay, so like,
sorry.
yeah, ODB. That's what I was
Yeah.
getting. Okay, so that whole "get out of here" sort of thing that I just did. Right? There's actually this video, and I've never seen this video, but they always used to show a clip of whenever they would talk about ODB. On
When he
MTV,
shoplifts the
they would
shoes.
Well, but he's like, no,
Oh.
he There's actually a song where he actually raps that. He's like, "Get out of here!" Like, because ODB was a wild man.
Oh yeah.
Dude. Rest in peace to the man, because he did put out two very, very good rap records.
Oh yeah. They're great.
The Wu-Tang Clan were so like, when you think about it, the Wu-Tang Clan was weird.
Yeah,
they were
I've
cool.
listened to a lot more of like the not specifically Wu-Tang releases. So
Yeah, me too. Like the solo, like RZA as Bobby Digital
yeah,
and things like that.
and Gravediggers especially. Yeah.
Yeah, Gravediggers, though, I think that actually predated Wu-Tang, didn't it?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I don't know about all that.
Well,
just
you know,
it's the
RZA
same-
was-
some of the same people. So.
RZA actually put out a solo record in like the early 90s under the name Prince Rakim. And that was like total like 90s, like late 80s, early 90s sort of rap. Like R&B kind of almost.
Wow.
Like, and that predated Wu-Tang Clan. I wonder if that Gravediggers record did predate
don't
Wu-Tang Clan.
know.
Yeah, because
6 Feet Deep was
I kind of just
1994
wonder
when that came out.
if RZA was
So-
doing that before Enter the 36 Chambers.
I don't know about before, but I just looked it up, and 6 Feet Deep was in 94, and Enter the Wu-Tang was 1993.
Okay, so it didn't predate.
But, I mean, who knows if they were working on that before, I don't know.
Yeah, they probably were, I'm sure. I mean, both of those guys, Prince Paul was in that too, so I'm sure that those guys are always working on something.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, it looks like the group was formed in 94, Gravediggers. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was Gravediggers. That means basically it was like the first Wu-Tang side
right.
project.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
Okay.
and I adore
Gotcha.
it. 6 Feet Deep is seriously one of my favorite records ever.
Yeah,
I love
you've
it.
mentioned that before.
It is, yeah, it's in my top 5 hip hop records, easy. I don't even know what comes before it, to be honest. I just have to give myself some buffering room there. So if I'm ever like, the Chronic's the best, then I don't have to defend myself against my other hyperbolic statement,
Well, that's one of those things where, like, okay, when I'm discussing, like, well, I guess I've never really discussed, like, top MCs or favorite MCs or whatever with true hip-hop heads. It's usually with just, like, my friends, who understand where I come from. But,
Right.
yeah, like, my picks, like, probably would just get shot down. You know what I mean? Like, because, like, my favorite rappers are not mainstream at all.
Right.
Like maybe I'd throw somebody in there like maybe like Chuck D or something, but that would really, or maybe the Beastie Boys,
Yeah.
which I feel like the Beastie Boys are not really thought of in the hip hop community as like really great MCs, like more just for their musical contributions, which I would actually kind of disagree with that. I think Beastie Boys are actually really great. Like we're just always really great rappers.
Yeah.
Like MCs, But I guess it just depends on taste.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, so we covered a lot in those 15 minutes. Gravediggers, Wu-Tang Clan, school,
Yes.
football.
Football.
There was all kinds of like action.
Yeah.
At the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. I do have to say, while we're talking about sports, because I doubt it's going to come up again, at least I hope not. I will say that.
We can turn this into a sports
No, I don't want to
want.
talk about sports. But I will say that a combination of two things basically saved my life in 8th grade. So one was that I got into the Misfits because of Cliff Burton's shirts, and that Metallica covered them on their Garage Days Revisited EP.
Oh, sure.
And
yes.
I joined wrestling. The result of,
really?
or I joined the wrestling team. I had wrestled previously, but as wrestling season came up and I joined. And the reason those two things matter is because before that, again, I won't say any names, but I hung out with all the headbanger people, kind of the Heschers, I guess. And one of the older Heschers, actually two of the older Heschers in the group, lived across the street from my middle school. Again, I'm going to try to keep this as anonymous as I can. And so we would stand on their porch and smoke cigarettes before school started. And it was like directly across, like the teachers stood at the middle school and just watched us smoke and listen to heavy metal. And so anyway, that was kind of my whole gig. I was just like this little metalhead dude and like a juvenile delinquent, and pretty much all my friends were too. But anyway, one day I came to the porch before school and I told everyone, like, hey, you guys gotta, well, first off, I joined wrestling and they made me cut my hair. All right. So I had short hair. Actually, it was kind of like a skater bowl cut, which is probably even worse.
Sure.
So
I had one of
I
those.
walk up to my group of headbanger friends and I'm got this short hair and I'm like, hey, you guys should listen to the Misfits. And they're like, what? Misfits are punk. That's stupid. We only listen to metal. And I was like, but Cliff Burton and Metallica were like, we don't care. The Misfits suck or whatever. And like, basically they did not let me hang out anymore. They were just like, get out of here,
because
you
you like the
punk.
Misfits.
Yeah. And I had short hair. Right. And so because of that though, like I got way into like skate punk and other like thrash, but not in a metal way, but in a fun skateboarding way or whatever. And like I had to make basically new friends that were not heavy metal dope smokers, and they were more like skateboarding dope smokers. No, just kidding. But anyway, like I kind of look back at that moment where they were like, get out of here, you know, and kicked me off the porch as like one of the best moments of my life. Right at that moment, I was really bummed, obviously. I'd just lost like all my friends for really stupid reasons. But you know, within a couple months, it was like I had all these new friends and I was being exposed to like all this really great underground music and punk rock, and it really just kind of exploded my whole worldview being kicked off that porch. So I just wanted to say thanks to wrestling and thanks to the Misfits, you know.
That's hilarious, Eric. That would only you would have like that story to tell, that you were proud to get kicked off of a porch because of the Misfits. That's awesome.
Well, I wasn't proud at the
could-
moment. I was totally bummed.
Yeah, you were bummed at but now you're calling it the best time of your life, or the best
it was a
moment
big
of your
moment,
life.
yeah, and it changed
like-
everything.
That's awesome. I don't know if I can really like think of anything to top that, like with any of my experiences in high school. My experiences in high school involved, I don't know. I guess I could tell you about a friend who will remain anonymous that found out that he was able to, you remember All Sport, the drink?
Yeah.
There used to be an All Sport machine down at the riverfront by the boat club.
Yeah.
And I remember he found out that there was a way that he was able to stick his arm up and just grab them.
Nice.
and we took like 70 of them to my sister's house, and put it in her fridge. And she woke up. She's like, "What the hell? Where did all these come from?" And it was like my first car. It was a Chevy Citation.
Nice.
And I remember like it was, the back was so loaded with this stuff that it actually was like like my car was dragging because of it from the riverfront to my sister's house.
Man.
Oh
Nice.
man, and I guess I was kind of proud of that moment in my life.
And now you're gonna get busted.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they've been waiting all these years for someone.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
For someone to
What happened to
confess to the
So that's why All Sport went out of business.
the great all sport caper of Muscatine.
Great All Sport game. So now I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of. I was gonna call this episode "The Concept of School." Now I think I may have to call it the Great All Sport Caper.
Well, you better do it
man.
quick before they take you to jail.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man.
All right.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Hey, it wasn't me who stole them.
Yeah.
It was the anonymous
Prove
guy.
it. Prove it. Yeah. It was the guy I don't even know anymore.
He doesn't exist.
Maybe.
Sure he doesn't. Sure he doesn't. So
All right.
that segues somehow into our records.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you guys, this one is going to be a little different in that we actually reviewed a record apiece last week, but we cut that section out due to time so that we could have a little bit more time with Sean Reed. And so what the first review you're going to hear is actually from last week. And that is going to happen right now. Enjoy. Okay, so do we even talk about records anymore on here?
Nope, just food and Johnny
Pop
Marr.
culture gossip.
Yep. Gossip.
That's what's going on. Yeah, we're gossiping.
Did you hear what happened to them?
Did you hear about the Smiths? They're the most important band. No, wait, I got to do it in my Beefcast voice. Did you hear about the Smiths? They're the most important band in the universe.
Oh, the Smiths from that camping place.
They're so good, I'm going to hold a gun to someone's head and make them play it all night. What do you think?
They're so good, I'm going to name my RV park after them. No.
Well, at least the guitarist, his last name anyway. It ain't at the Ainsworth Corners. Okay, yep. All right, let's... before Sean decides he doesn't want to be on our program.
Right.
So, anyway, for this week, we're each only going to do one record. So that's all you get to hear us blab about. So who goes first with their pick?
You can go.
Okay. So the one album that I picked was the second album from Digable Planets called Blowout Comb. Digable Planets, of course, they were known in the early 90s. I'm going to say like 92 or maybe 93 for that big hit, Cool Like That, which was really awesome. I mean, if you were watching, if you were around my age or my age, if you were watching MTV at that time, you couldn't escape it because they were constantly playing it. I mean, it was a big hit around that time. And I just remember it had that really jazzy sort of, it was almost like beatnik rap or something. It was really, really cool. And that first album called Reach In, and it actually has a longer title than that because it's like Reach In and then something in parentheses. I don't remember. I'm sorry. It was pretty good. It was a pretty good record. You know, there were some things about it that were very just kind of, I guess, samey all the way through. Cool Like That was probably the best track on there. I would say, I would venture to guess that's the reason why it was such a big hit. Was because it was the one standout track on the record. But then they put out their second record in, I think the following year. I don't remember if the first one came out in 92 or 93, but I think it was like 94 when Blowout Comb came. And for some reason, it just fell below everyone's radar. And it just kind of became like a new example of people just not caring. Like, I think everybody kind of was stoked on this new style that kind of, that they were kind of developing. And I would say that along with somebody like Tribe Called Quest, De La, the whole Native Tongues, there was kind of this like jazz rap sort of conscious scene kind of brewing up. But 94, I mean, it had to have been a tough year to be that kind of group in hip hop, because I mean, this is when gangster rap became like the newest cool thing. And so the airwaves in terms of rap was obviously being taken over by Dre and Snoop were the biggest examples, but Ice Cube, and then also Wu-Tang Clan came and just completely changed the whole landscape of hip hop around that time. So Digable Planets, this was also kind of the start of, the conscious rap was kind of de-escalating in popularity a little bit. And so I think that Blowout Comb, I think this was just a victim of that. I mean, honestly. But it is such a good record. It is worlds above the first record. I mean, there's like all kinds of just really cool samples. And it's just really, it's got that sort of jazzy thing, but it's a little more, I don't know. There's like a darker element to it in terms of just sound, and also a way more progressive element to it. I can see why, in hindsight, why it didn't really catch on, because I think it was a little too forward thinking. Because I mean, there was a lot of stuff on this record that I think was kind of ahead of its time in terms of production. I mean, a couple of the songs were like 7 minutes long, and just really it tackled a lot of issues, social issues, injustice, and things like that. But the production and sampling, very creative. And I would even venture to say that a lot of it was kind of the start of abstract rap, which I think also De La and Tribe, and maybe even something like Outkast later on, they could all kind of be attributed to that as well. But I think this was just a lost classic that just, unfortunately, it was just a lost relic of its time, and it's really fantastic. And from beginning to end, I mean, I hear a lot of, there's like one transition in one of the tracks, like, I think it's like track 4, where it cuts off, and then there's like this spy movie kind of chase theme going on. Mm-hmm. And I kid you not, it almost sounds like it's directly from an MF Doom record that came out like 15 years later. Because it's totally that kind of aesthetic, that total thing, the cutting of it, the timing and everything. It's totally what Doom did on like his production in a lot of ways. And it's not just Doom. It's, pretty much any like underground backpack, whatever you want to call it, boom bap, any of that stuff. I'm sure that there were a lot of heads, as they call them, that was really influenced by this record. Mm-hmm. And probably were also just as, I guess, like, just as puzzled, but also at the same time understood why this record flew under the radar at the time it came out. It's, in my opinion, it's just a really brilliant record. What did you think, Erik?
Yeah. I had never heard this. And it's for all the reasons that you already stated, but just in my experience, yeah, it was like all the kind of posy rap, sort of like cross colors and things like that. Like, it it had its time, and it was pretty much like when it really popped. I would guess was maybe like 89 or 90 through 93, and then it just died. It just was over. Like there was a time in 1992, 93 where like I didn't listen to a lot of De La Soul and Disposable Heroes and stuff that would maybe be considered similar. And yeah, but I did listen to Digable Planets and Us Three and Arrested Development, things like that. I didn't know about Native Tongues or anything like that. It was a time where it was hard to find that stuff out. Like you had to read magazines or get catalogs in the mail or see who else is on the labels and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So I picked and chose what I could find, and Reachin' I definitely listened to a lot. Like a lot. I would say for 3 or 4 months of my life, that was like my identity. It's like if it was somehow urban and hippie-ish, like I was into it. I don't know what happened, but then pretty much like 93 comes along, the Chronic hits, A Different World goes off the air, Living Color's not on anymore.
I never thought of that. That's
it's
so weird how that
like
all
collapsed.
that all coincided with that culture.
Yeah, and it was just gone. So, with that being said, Reachin', I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was cool. I didn't know a lot about rap or hip hop, and so to me, this felt different than anything else I had ever heard. Like it was, I don't know, it was trying really hard to be like smooth and relaxed and cool and laid back and also like conscious, like conscientious of the environment and the culture and everything like that. And so I liked it at the time. This one I had never heard, but it definitely is the stronger of the two. Like it's got to be really hard to be like the group or the band or the artist that puts out the record 1 year after everything has collapsed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like maybe it was like the last Poison album or something, like it was over, but that's all you got. And so you have to put it out. And so, or like the last, like, I guess Creed went on for a long time, but like the last grunge album or whatever, like it's got to be hard to put something out that you believe in and think is really good. And it is really good, but it's just the time has passed,
Yeah.
Like I'm sure everyone has felt that. Everyone who makes music has felt that way. Like
Absolutely.
I'm sure the Allman Brothers were like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do now when they saw Devo? It's like,
yeah.
And so I think that's a big part of this. I think that if interest would have kept up, they would have kept growing and evolving and making more interesting things, because this is way more interesting. They're not acting like they're in a jazz club anymore. Like they're talking about their actual culture and their environment, the people around them, the stuff that they're doing. They get almost braggadocious, which they definitely purposefully avoided on the first record. And
yes,
because they're not delivering rhymes that would be considered rap by most anyone, like at the time. They're not talking about cars or money. They don't cuss. They don't use the N-word. Like it's very on purpose the way they presented themselves on Reachin'. And then on this one, I think they start to expand and open up a little bit to letting some of that influence in, which is good. I mean, I think it would be necessary to continue. If they wanted to continue doing this, they were going to have to let other things in. You can't just, I don't know, be so self-aware and self-conscious all the time. At some point you have to be a little darker or a little funnier or just let your guard down a little bit. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the production is really cool. Like you said, it is the cut up techniques of it, the editing, just the way things are presented. They weren't that interested in putting out a radio hit on this. I don't think that they range from 1 minute to 7 minutes. You know, it's just like, and it overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you picked it. Cause I never honestly ever would have listened to it. It's one of those things I would have just thought, oh yeah, Digable Planets. I know exactly what they do, what they sound like, and I don't really need to hear another record by them. But
Yeah.
in reality, it's really good. It's pretty. I mean, I listened through it once. And I think I got the gist of it. So, but yeah, the production on it's really really cool. So yeah, I'm glad you picked it.
In the tradition of like I would kind of compare this to a certain extent to like the transition that the Beastie Boys made from License to Ill to Paul's Boutique.
Yeah, I can see that.
Of course, the huge difference is the Beastie Boys continued on in popularity and everything. But like in the tradition of like Paul's Boutique was very poorly received when it first came out. I don't remember this because I was 9 years old.
Yeah,
it's so weird for you know to think about that. It's so weird because now it's just hailed as a master. It's like a critic's choice now, you know, and everyone now thinks it's better than License to Ill.
Yeah.
And it is, in my opinion. But like this record just kind of sat, you know, in used bins for, I don't know, probably 20 years at this point.
Oh, sure.
And it just recently got reissued on vinyl, and it's starting to see like its cult following seems to be rising.
Nice.
So I think sometimes it just takes people forever to just, you know, experience the brilliant nature of things. And I think this is just one of those examples.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? So now on to a different kind of hip hop.
Yeah, both of our choices were hip hop this week.
We did hip hop this week.
Yeah, not on purpose. We don't discuss it. We just tell each other what the other person needs to listen to get ready for the show. It's kind of the funnest part of doing this.
Yeah,
I think. It's
I love.
It's like when you get the
preparing
list
for a
of
podcast.
records you have to listen to, you're like, what the fuck? Or awesome. Or, oh
Yeah.
man, you know? But like, usually it's fun to hear those things. Even if it's something you don't think you're going to be looking forward to, it's fun to sort of be forced to do it. I think it's cool. So
Yes.
I guess as the listener, you're lucky because you don't actually have to. If I say, I don't know, it was all right, like you don't have to listen to it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but if I say it's one of the best things I've ever heard, you still don't have to listen to it. So, you know, but this next one is one of the best things I've ever heard. No, it is pretty good though. It's called Malibu Ken, like the Barbie. And Malibu Ken is a project with Tobacco, who I bring up all the time. He is in Black Moth Super Rainbow. Honestly, once you start listening to Tobacco stuff, you know it's Tobacco, like instantly, because he only ever uses one synth, uses the same vocoder on everything. Everything sounds the same, but in a really fun, cool way. I think he does more with less than just about any electronic artist I know of. But yeah, so it's Tobacco, and Aesop Rock is rapping over it. And I think it's amazing. I think if you're a fan of Aesop Rock or Tobacco, you're going to like this a lot. Like, neither of them compromise what they do to be working on this together. This is the two of them working alongside each other to create something, you know, not giving up anything that they do. And whereas Tobacco has multiple projects, and his project called Tobacco does lean more towards hip hop than Black Moth Super Rainbow, but it never fully goes into having to be hip hop. this project I think does force Tobacco a little bit to have to keep things together, or at least keep them in parts, segments, sections. The same number of stanzas for a verse and a chorus and things like that. Song structure, he sort of has to pay attention to. So I think it's really cool, and I think it's laid back and strange, and at moments they don't seem to be working that well together, and then other moments it just syncs up perfectly, and it's like no other hip hop you've heard probably. The one track on it that I have listened to probably, I don't even know, 10, 15 times this past week. It's called Acid King, and it is one of the strangest hip hop rap songs that I have ever heard in my life. Basically, Aesop Rock tells us a story, and it seems to be about some loser druggie in a town, and he also is way into Satan, and then he steals some drugs, and then he kills a kid with like this coven of other satanic losers, and it's like watching a true crime documentary, but it's only like he tells you the whole thing in like 2.5 minutes straight of rapping with no break, and it's totally gives me chills. It's one of the craziest hip hop songs I've ever heard. Anyway, the rest of it all is just sick. I love how Aesop Rock uses terminology that you think only you and your friends used when you were kids. Like, he really draws you in and makes you feel like you know him a little bit. Like the song Suicide Big Gulp. Like, I didn't know other people called mixing a bunch of sodas together a suicide. I thought me and my friends made that up because we were really edgy or something. But no, I know that other people do now too. So anyway, Tobacco, Aesop Rock, I think it's amazing. And yeah, what'd you think, Dan?
Well, I'm coming at this from a little bit more of a different angle, I think, because not because I don't think it's amazing, because I do, but I would suspect, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Eric, you probably, before hearing this record, would say you were more of a Tobacco fan than you were an Aesop Rock fan. Is that fair to say?
Oh wait, I think you're cutting out. I didn't catch all that, Dan. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry, we had some audio problems there.
Yep.
I would suspect that you're probably more of a Tobacco fan than an Aesop Rock fan before you heard this, right?
Yep.
See, now that's where I'm coming at it from a different angle. I'm 100% hands down more of an Aesop Rock fan than a Tobacco fan. Not that I don't think Tobacco's amazing, because I heard his record Fucked Up Friends and I love it. But I've been an Aesop Rock fan and since I don't know, the early 2000s with his album Labor Days. And so hearing him do something like this, it was so like cool, because it's kind of out of the box of something you normally hear Aesop Rock doing, but at the same time, when you talk about the song Acid King, and you talk about like the lyrics kind of almost sounding like an Unsolved Mysteries episode or something.
Yeah,
totally. That's the kind of aesthetic that really is kind of all over like Aesop Rock's rhyming delivery.
Cool.
He has this like weird, like, I've always said that his rhyme style was always like, it almost sounded like he was writing novels. Like his songs were like novels, or something. They're crazy. And as a matter of fact, they're so crazy that somebody did a top 100 most lyrical rappers of all time. Aesop Rock won by a huge margin.
Wow.
It was like some sort of like study that somebody did where like it was like how many syllables or something like that. I don't remember the exact, but it was like literally like number 2 was like, I don't know. I'm just throwing out a random number. I don't know the actual details, but like number 2 was like, okay, he rhymes 1,602 syllables in whatever, you know what I mean? And Aesop Rock was like 7,000 or something. Like
Wow.
it was just like he like won as being like the most lyrical rapper, and that actually was kind of what brought Aesop Rock some exposure because people were like, you know, like mainstream rap fans were like, who the hell's Aesop Rock? You know, like, because, you know, he's always been underground.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
and so anyway, like yeah, I think this is just another brilliant Aesop Rock collaboration. He's done collaborations with people before. There's this other rapper named Homeboy Sandman who has kind of a similar abstract kind of weird style. And yeah, it's brilliant. And Tobacco, as you said, one of the things that I do like about it is that sometimes it almost is kind of getting close to sounding like, okay, yeah, these two aren't really meshing. They're not meshing well together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden something happens and Aesop Rock drops a rhyme and then Tobacco switches up the beat and it totally makes sense.
Right.
While not making sense at the same time. But that's kind of Aesop Rock, like, in a nutshell. I don't know if you know this, but Aesop Rock actually produces most of his own solo records. And I hear a lot of, especially on like the more recent Aesop Rock records, I think he's been inspired by Tobacco to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah.
Because I hear a lot of that same type of thing going on where it's like this weird, chaotic sort of like crashing, like the lyrics and the production are crashing into each other. And sometimes it just sounds like it's going to go up in flames.
Right.
But then it's just like, it just ends up working out at the end. And yeah, Aesop Rock is killer. Tobacco is killer. The production works really well. I love it.
Nice.
And I've heard this record before.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Pretty much every time Aesop Rock drops something, I'm usually listening to it.
Gotcha.
Have you heard any other Aesop Rock albums, Eric?
I heard. Oh, shoot. I don't remember. It was. Yes, I had a very old record on a CDR. That's how old it was.
Okay.
So probably one of his first records, I would guess.
Right. I would recommend checking out like Labor Days first of all, which in my opinion is one of his classic.
I think
records.
that might be the one I had. Labor Days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Bazooka
also,
Tooth. I
yeah,
had
Bazooka
both of those.
Tooth.
Yeah.
Bazooka Tooth was kind of like his first record that he did his own production on.
Okay.
I think, and he just got better as time went on. He's now on Rhymesayers, which is Slug from Atmosphere's label. And the last two solo records he put out, the Impossible Kid, and oh man, I'm blanking what the more recent one is. Spirit World Field Guide. Both of those are amazing,
Cool.
Eric. And I think if you like this record, you'll love those
All right.
records.
I'll check them out for sure. Yeah.
We're back.
Oh man, we were so stupid back then. I can't believe
Yeah,
that.
I know. I can't believe that, dude.
God,
Gee,
we
a
were
lot
so
has
naive.
changed. A lot has changed. My musical tastes and everything.
Oh yeah, I would not review those records the same now.
No, I mean, I can't believe what I listened to back then.
Ugh.
It's terrible.
Anyway, let's get to these new good records.
It's embarrassing. Embarrassing.
No, those were
so
really
who-
fun records, actually. I remember.
What's really funny is that I don't know who goes next.
Oh, I don't either. Go for it.
You want
You
to
go
just go ahead
first.
and you gonna roll dice maybe? Or That's it.
I could just lie though.
There you go. That's true. That's what we should start doing. Is we should start rolling dice on this podcast.
It was heads.
Okay, cool.
So you go
All right.
first.
So I'll go first. So the next record, or first record, depending on who you ask and how you want to
Depending
go
on
about
where
this.
you exist in time.
Yeah, where you exist in time, because there are all different kinds of dimensions that we just unlocked with this episode. I'm going to start off with Cave In Until Your Heart Stops.
Nice.
This is a metal record by a kind of a non-metal band, and I'll explain this. So Cave In were one of my favorite bands back in like the late 90s, more like early 2000s. And they started out as a metalcore band, basically. They recorded a bunch of 7-inches in like the mid 90s. And then they released a compilation album of all of those singles called Beyond Hypothermia, which I think came out in 97. And they followed that compilation up with their official debut album, which is this one called Until Your Heart Stops. Now, let me preface by saying, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Cave In, they then went on to make the biggest musical transition I think I've ever heard a band do. Because they only remained pretty much this intense and this heavy for those albums. And then they did an EP after this called Creative Eclipses, which had kind of a weird like space rock sort of thing going on. And then they went further in that direction with the follow-up Jupiter. And then they signed to a major label, and they put out basically what was a alternative rock record, and a fairly mainstream sounding alternative rock record, and even like went on tour with the Foo Fighters and played Lollapalooza, only to get dropped by their label a year later. And then after that, they went back to playing metal. But the metal that they played after that wasn't nearly as intense. While it was still good, I wouldn't say it was nearly as intense as this record. One of the things that really blows my mind about this record to this day is the fact that these Cave In was only like maybe they weren't 17, but they were like just out of high school when they recorded this record. And I mean, it just sounds fucking bananas. It's for me, it's one of like, I don't really like, I mean, I like metal, but you know, when it comes to like technical metal, sometimes I can just sort of take it or leave it. Like, I do like a lot of like technical stuff, something like Death, for instance. I like a lot of that kind of stuff. And of course, you know, I like stuff that's really crazy, like the Dillinger Escape Plan and things like that. But I feel like this record was just kind of the perfect combination of death metal, metalcore, hardcore, punk, and then also it had elements of even like ambient electronic music. Like the last track, you know, ends with this like really, really long drawn out ambient piece. And there's these little like sort of segues in the record. As a matter of fact, this record has been described as OK Computer meets Slayer, which I think is actually like, you know, a pretty spot on description, really. And they made a record in a genre that I don't really listen to a lot of metal like this. But for some reason, this record just completely stands out for me. And I've loved it ever since I heard it the first time. And when I picked this record this week, it was because I revisited it. and it still holds up for me. Excellent record. Probably my favorite track on it is Juggernaut. It's just a beast of a song. I mean, if you're into metal, but also metal that kind of has like a spacey side to it, I mean, this is the record for you. And I mean, in that sense, you could almost compare it a little bit to something like Voivod, because obviously Voivod wrote a lot of science fiction related lyrics and things like that, but at the same time, it doesn't sound like Voivod at all. It's definitely a lot heavier than that. But yeah, this is a record in a genre that just totally stands out for me. That otherwise, this type of genre is generally just boring to me. This is one of a handful of records in the metalcore genre that just I absolutely love. What did you think, Eric?
Yeah, I excuse me, have never listened to Cave In ever. It's a name I've heard, probably because they, like you said, did become a little more mainstream and well known. So, but I also feel like I sort of remembered it from basically that hardcore time period in the late 90s, early 2000s that is one of my musical blind spots. I don't, unfortunately, know very much about it. And so I would say that just upon hearing this, I would think that this is like hardcore, but I definitely see that it's metal. Like, honestly, if in 1999 when this came out, if someone would have said to me, "Hey, you like thrash, right?" I'd be like, "Yeah, but it doesn't exist anymore." Someone could have been like, "Hey, check out this Cave In." Like, it kind of bums me out that I didn't realize that thrash metal did continue after the time period that I was into it. It reminds me of the Hard Times. They had a headline once that said, "Man insists scene died when he stopped going to shows." And I always reference that because that's how everyone feels. But like, for real, I didn't know thrash existed after 1990 at the very latest. So I probably would have been into this if I didn't think it was something else. I've talked about that before, where like what you think you know about something can stand in the way of you actually enjoying something. And I think this falls into that for me. Like, if I had known what this actually sounded like, I probably would have been pretty into it. But with that being said, it was super energetic. It's almost upbeat if it wasn't so viciously angry.
Right.
It's a lot of fun though. Like, it's heavy and strange, and there's these long noise interludes that are really cool. But it's not just filler. They use it in the songs too. And I just can't imagine how fun and insanely difficult it would have been to play in a band like this. Like, just so much fun. You listen to the guitar parts and it's seriously someone just doing pull-offs down the whole neck. Like, most of the songs are just nonsense, but precise. And it's really cool. I enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, I wish I would have listened to this earlier. And with your recommendation, this might be the only one by this group I listened to. I don't know. Maybe the one before it, you said, or compilation after, or something. I would highly suggest. I'm sorry if I made it sound like the direction they went into after this. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry if I made it sound like you shouldn't check it out. No, okay. I highly suggest you check out the Creative Eclipses EP and the Jupiter album. Okay. And I like Antenna, which is the major label record where they went into more of a mainstream. But I could see also where I could see where people didn't like it. They actually got a lot of shit for that record. Yeah. I think what it was a much better version of
modern rock radio at that time,
Okay.
basically. But they still had elements of something like Jupiter. It's amazing the direction. Like, seriously, Jupiter, Creative Eclipses, from Until Your Heart Stops to Creative Eclipses to Jupiter, doesn't even sound like the same band.
Wow.
I kid you not. It's insane. But then they went back to sort of the metal sound on the follow-up called Perfect Pitch Black. And then they also put out an EP called Planets of Old. And then the last, well, no, not the last. They put out a record called White Silence. And then the last record they put out was called Final Transmission. One of the main members of the band, Caleb Schofield, died in a car accident.
Oh, okay.
So that was the last record that he was on and before he died. And they just released it in 2019 or something like that. But that guitar playing you were describing,
Yeah.
that's just the magic of Stephen Brodsky and Caleb Schofield. They were just genius guitar players at the age of like 8. Like I said, Until Your Heart Stops was done when they were like probably just fresh out of high school. I know that like Beyond Hypothermia, before that, they were like, I think like at least one or two of the songs from one of the, like their first single, I think they were 15 years old or something in like 95. So to think that they were putting together an album as precise and as nuts and as technically proficient as Until Your Heart Stops when they were 18 or 19, it's otherworldly as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And they actually formed the band because they wanted to sound like they basically wanted to achieve the same type of intensity that Converge had. Like Converge was one of their big influences.
That's the kind of stuff that I thought this sounded like. Like I said, that's a big blind spot for me. But tons of people I hang out with, like that's their music. Coalesce, Torch, Converge, all that stuff. And I only ever listen to like the whinier side of that, maybe, or like Far and Quicksand and things like that.
Well,
maybe
now,
that's
if you
not
like,
whinier, but it's.
You mentioned Torch.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Torch is like.
Yeah.
Is like Far and Quicksand type
Oh,
stuff.
okay. Well, maybe I'll check them out too. But I have a lot of stuff to catch up on. I mean, always. We all do. But I just had this blind spot. I think I was listening to a lot of new wave and electronic music at that time and just sort of missed it. So,
well, it's weird for me, real quick before we move on. It's weird for me too. It's interesting you mentioned that because I was really digging this album at a time when I really wasn't listening to a lot of metal myself. It's weird. Like Cave In just happened to be like, there was like I mean, obviously I dug Dillinger because they opened up for Mr. Bungle, but I mean, even Calculating Infinity from Dillinger didn't affect me the way that this record did. Like it's just really weird. Like I wasn't a metalhead, but for some reason, Cave In Until Your Heart Stops just totally like, I don't know. It was like the lone like technical metal CD, metal hardcore CD that was in my collection.
I really liked it. I think it just had a nice energy to it, and they took a lot of risks, musically.
Definitely.
Yeah, good stuff. For sure.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
So,
what do you got for me, Eric?
My first one. Let's go with the Chromatics. Okay. So I forgot to mention to Dan that they re-released this record. It's called Kill for Love. It was released in 2012, but there was a deluxe version on Spotify that's like has a ton of instrumental versions and stuff. I forgot to mention that I was not talking about that deluxe version. So
okay, how many? I don't think I listened to the deluxe version.
Okay, yeah, because the real version is already like an hour and 17 minutes long.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was really long. Okay. I remember that.
So, and I'm sorry I keep doing that to you. I really don't mean to. I'll pick some short stuff soon. I promise.
It's okay, dude. It's okay.
But yeah, the Chromatics. I first became aware of the Chromatics because of the show Twin Peaks. In Twin Peaks: The Return, there's a lot of lame stuff that happens. There's a lot of really funny stuff that happens, a lot of cool stuff. And so if you like Twin Peaks, I would suggest you see it. If you love Twin Peaks, I would suggest you don't see it. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, one of the best parts of The Return was that they had groups come and play at the Roadhouse, which is a beloved locale in Twin Peaks. And they had a lot of really cool groups, stuff that was relatively not well known, like the Cactus Blossoms were on there, whom I love, the Chromatics, but then they also had like Eddie Vedder performing under his own name instead of Eddie Vedder, or Nine Inch Nails, which are introduced as the Nine Inch Nails, which is really funny. But so anyway, that's one of the best parts of Twin Peaks: The Return. Okay, Chromatics fit in really well with that atmosphere. They are from Portland. They had a lot of different lineups before they kind of really coalesced and found their sound. And that was when a singer named Ruth Radelet joined and was on vocals, and a fella named Johnny Jewel, who basically owns the sound of the Chromatics. He also has bands called Glass Candy, Desire, Symmetry. They all have very similar tight synth, kind of like synth wave stuff, kind of like John Carpenter-esque, a lot of arpeggiated synths and things like that. But the Chromatics add in like twangy guitars and this really ethereal vocal style. I would say it's in the vein of stuff, really chill stuff like Washed Out or Cigarettes After Sex, but also it's, like I said, really a lot of twang guitars, a lot of atmospheric moments, cinematic, I would even say, but very full of synths, and not washy synths, like real punchy, real synths. I would say that it also has maybe some feel like The Knife or The Blow in elements of those. So if you like any of that stuff I just mentioned, I think you would like the Chromatics. This record is pretty long, like we just mentioned. They do have shorter ones. The two albums before this are also really killer. I just think that they have a nice, immersive, kind of cool world that they create, and you just get to kind of fall into it. And at times it can seem really normal sounding. At other times it's really noisy and strange. But I think it's really cool, and it's very effective. It does exactly what it sets out to do. And on a personal level, they were a really big influence on the music that I make, because they already had a lot of elements I already use, but it just gave me the confidence to be like, I do like twangy guitars and synth. And if songs are extremely long and slow, like that's an acceptable form of songwriting, And so, like I said, on a personal level, I take a lot from them as well. So, with that being said, I don't know. What'd you think, Dan?
I really enjoyed this. It's interesting because for some reason I was under the impression that the Chromatics were like almost like a no wave dance band or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I thought that. I think there might be another band with a similar name that kind of falls into that category. So it threw me off when I put this on.
Gotcha.
Because I thought, well, wow, this is totally not that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, it's a really, really nice, soothing sound. I definitely hear the Twin Peaks vibe for sure. Mm-hmm. There's times where like the guitars are very heavily drenched in reverb, and then other times, as you said, where it just sort of sounds like normal, like kind of like just like a folk song or something. You know what I mean? And there's times where it reminds me of something like PJ Harvey or something like Belly, or I don't know. You remember the band Lush?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Then there's other times where it reminds me of, I don't know, Elliott Smith, or even like it gets to like almost like Modest Mouse territory at times.
Yeah.
And things like that. I really like the songwriting on it. This is one of those albums where I don't think the length hindered it at all. I think that it actually was just really, just sitting down and listening, like it just became more and more interesting as time went on, I think the songwriting's great. Excellent singing, excellent. There's not really much else I can add to it. Has a very haunting vibe to it, which I appreciate. It's great pick. I'm glad you picked this one, Eric.
All right. Nice. What's your next one?
So my next one is from this group called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And the name of this record is Flying Microtonal Banana. And so King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard are a band that has kind of been on my radar for a while. There's been a lot of hype kind of surrounding them, which in some ways has kind of turned me off from them. But I started listening to their discography on Spotify, and I think they formed in 2011, and they've already put out like 13 albums. And in fact, this record came out in 2017. I believe that this was the first. Yeah, this was the first of 5 records they released that year. So they're very prolific, like extremely prolific. And if you go back and listen to King Gizzard's discography, I think I've only gotten like as far as to probably like the 7th or 8th record so far. I'm listening to them actually in order. And I could have picked like 3 or 4 of their records. There's this one called Nanagon Infinity, which is actually meant to play like front to back. And the reason why they put infinity in the title is it's designed to actually play forever if you want it to. Like front to back. And the songs are like, they kind of just like, I don't know, they seep into each other. And it's like, so it almost becomes like one long song, which kind of almost all of their records kind of head in that direction. This one being kind of no different. Seems like the main dude, I think they have like 9 members or something. Like there's a lot of people in this band, and they're from Australia. They're labeled as a psychedelic rock band, but really they've done so many things. They actually, in 2019, they released a straight up thrash metal record. And when I say thrash metal, it sounds like Anthrax or Exodus. Like it sounds like it's from the 80s. Like, straight up. And it's actually their most normal record, like 100%. But I could have picked like I could have picked that one, Nanagon Infinity, because that one blew my mind. And then the record that one came out right before this one. And then the one after it, Murder of the Universe, is amazing as well. Every record I've really liked. What's interesting about this record is the reason why it's called Flying Microtonal Banana. And I'm going to make a full disclosure here. I'm actually reading this off of Wikipedia because there's no way I could have memorized all this. But the album is subtitled Explorations into Microtonal Tuning Volume 1. So that's the subtitle of it, which I didn't know there was a subtitle. And the album is recorded in quarter tone tuning, where an octave is divided into 24 logarithmically equal distanced quarter notes. It was originally conceived to play on a boglama. Do you know what a boglama is, Eric?
I'm not sure. No.
I'm not either, but I'm going to click on it since I'm on Wikipedia, and we're going to discover what a baglama is together.
Looks like
The
a
baglama,
ute or something.
yeah, it's, let's see, a stringed musical instrument. Yeah, exactly. I think it's Turkish. Like,
yeah.
it's a Turkish instrument. So
Oh,
yeah,
it's like a
this whole,
bouzouki. That's it. Yeah.
gotcha. I thought you were gonna say bazooka.
Yeah. Old Bouzouki Joe.
Bazooki Joe. Welcome back, Joe. You remember that from
Oh, yeah.
Atomizer on Big
I
Black?
do.
Welcome back, Joe.
That's a good one.
So that's interesting that it was originally conceived to play on that. The band members used instruments specifically modified for microtonal tuning, as well as other Middle Eastern instruments like the zurna. The name Flying Microtonal Banana comes from Stu McKenzie's custom-built yellow guitar fitted with an additional microtonal fret. Or fitted with additional microtonal frets. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah, this record, and like I said, every record from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard is honestly like different. Like, it's crazy. And the thing is like, again, you know how it goes when like things kind of get really hyped up and popular, and it can turn you off sometimes. And so I just never really believe people when they say that about things sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, and unfortunately, fortunately, I decided to actually give them a try, and I gotta say, man, they really are insane. Like, they really are just like crazy. Like, I love this record, but I love every other record. And I mean, there's elements of krautrock. There's elements of sort of like weird synthesizer rock. There's elements of prog rock. Sometimes they sound like Rush. Sometimes they sound like New, or something along those lines, or Can. Other times, I mean, they sound like almost like something along Trans Am or something like that. I mean, it's just, I thought this is just a really interesting album. And like I said, I could have picked any King Gizzard record, and I probably would have just said the same thing, because they're a band that I literally cannot figure out, and I love it.
Nice.
I love it. What did you think, Eric?
Yeah. So my friend Nick has been telling me about King Gizzard for years. I mean, all the time. And Nick is the one that also told me to listen to Caleb Landry Jones. So I need to really start believing Nick when he tells me to listen to something, because I thought this was really good. It wasn't what I expected. I had almost the same notes as you did. What I literally wrote was, it's very stonerish and fuzzy and heavy, like some neo-psych rock, like Denava or Assemblehead and Sunburst Sound. It has that feel to it, but it's also really tight and angular and new wavy, like Trans Am or even Devo. And I said a lot of the main sections of the songs are super krautrockish, like Can or Hawkwind, very motoric drum sections. And I was really kind of blown away by it. It went a lot of places, but it also just stayed where it was. It was locked in. Like every song, there's not a lot of mystery of what's going to happen until it does. And what I mean by that is like the verse part of the song is just going to go and they're going to say some stuff. But then it just goes crazy and goes into like almost like Turkish or Middle Eastern kind of modes and scales. And that sounds like that might be a little more specific to this record, but I really can't wait to listen to more of this. And I also think that two things for me worked against it, and that was everyone telling me I should listen to it. Unfortunately, that a lot of times makes me not listen to something. And I just thought the name was silly, and I usually don't care. For real, I usually do not care what a band is called. But every once in a while, I'll read a band name and just be like, no, I don't, come on.
Yes.
And so I feel bad about that. But let me say, if you are like Cigarettes After Sex, a band that I just mentioned with the Chromatics, that's another band where I'm like, come on, why? That's the worst, crappiest band name of all time.
Right.
But I love them. They are one of my favorite things. And so I just got to get over it. Because, like, how many band names are there? You know, and who really cares? So, but yeah, those are two things that held me back. And I wish I wouldn't have let them hold me back. Because it's really good stuff. So,
yeah, another thing I'd like to add is that a lot of this band seems to really appeal to a lot of the fans of the garage psych scene for obvious reasons. And so I guess I just kind of thought, because their first album is pretty that scene. You know what I mean? Their very first album sounds like it, something that came out of like the Memphis garage scene or the Detroit garage scene, kind of.
gotcha.
A little bit. They're still, but they didn't really start, I feel like, getting into their weirdness until like the second record, which was actually like a storybook narrated by somebody.
Wow. Yeah.
That's their second record. And it's just like, after that, it's almost like everything was just possible for this band. And so that kind of turned me off for a little bit too, because I was like, I don't need to hear another psych garage band. There's millions of them. You know what I mean? Like, not that I hate that scene or anything, but I mean, it's like, after you hear Jay Reatard and Ty Segall, it's like you can only take like so many copies of that sort of sound,
For sure. Yep.
And so, but really, even that first record though is still something that is actually totally unique. Like, but after hearing it, I'm like, wow, this is actually like completely different, and I don't understand why this seems to appeal to fans of the psych garage thing so much, but it does. And this is something that also I think could appeal to people who are into stuff like Trans Am and Devo, as you
I think so
mentioned,
too. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll talk about them more in the future, maybe even do a record review. But if you like King Gizzard, you really should check out Nick, the guy that told me about King Gizzard, his band, Land of Blood and Sunshine. I think.
Oh yeah, I've listened.
I don't know if I would say they're similar, but I think that they use a lot of the same ideas from what I've heard from this. So
I've actually seen them play live a couple of times.
Yeah, they're
great.
awesome. So
yeah, absolutely
nice.
Okay, so moving on to your next juicy pick.
Yeah.
Erik.
All right. So Zonal is the name of the band. Zonal. The record is called Wrecked, and it came out in 2019. So unbeknownst to me, this is sort of a super group. I asked some of my friends for things like grimy dub stuff, because that's what I was really into. And someone said, oh, man, you got to check out Zonal. You'll love them. And they were right. But it's Justin Broderick from Jesu and Godflesh. It's Kevin Martin, also known as The Bug, who apparently I have to mention every single episode now, because I'm just obsessed, or dubsessed, as it were. And then there's a vocalist named Kame Aiwa, who goes by More Mother. And she does vocals on like half of the tracks. More Mother's really cool. I need to check it out more. But from what I've listened to so far, I'm really stoked. And I think they came here to Iowa City a couple of years ago for our Mission Creek Festival. And I think I didn't get to go because I was playing, or maybe I just didn't go because I'm dumb. But either way, I regret it now. And so, yeah, that's a pretty good group of people, The Bug, Godflesh, More Mother, all together. So that's a pretty cool thing. I would say overall the record is just really cool, atmospheric, grime, dub, and then More Mother had some really just cool and strange vocals. I wouldn't say they're hip hop vocals or rapping. I wouldn't say that they're soul singing either. It's not even like spoken word. It's like somewhere in between all those things. And so if you're a fan of any of those things, I think you'll dig this. This might be one of those records, though, I have to admit, like I talked about last week when we had Sean Reed on, I listen to a lot of this kind of music in my car because I love bass. And so I don't know if that translates to headphones or computer speakers as much. And so I think a lot of that might get lost if you're not listening to it on something with, a little bit of bass. So if someone said, I don't get it, it's super boring, I might say, well, try it with a subwoofer. But anyway, the only thing I really didn't care for about this record is the first half of the songs have More Mother doing vocals on them, and then the second half of the record don't. And so it's like, it kind of just falls into sort of just atmospheric dub stuff after you've kind of been jazzed up about having some vocals on there and almost like song parts or whatever, something to grab onto. And so I'm not sure why they split it directly in half like that. I probably would have, mixed them throughout and maybe had a more well-rounded record. But, they're hella more successful than I will ever be. So I'm not going to question their judgment or say I know better. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool, heavy, atmospheric record. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I thought this was really cool. It's interesting too because you were just talking about the Bug, and I was like, who the hell's the Bug? And then like you send me this, and I'm like, oh, well, the Bug is in this group.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait a minute, Justin Broderick from Godflesh? I was like, wow. And then I listened to the first track, and yeah, it's like this weird like spoken word, kind of like you said, sort of between hip hop and somewhere between hip hop and spoken word. Like it's not really one or the other, but like there's this like really weird, just brooding music kind of going on in the background that almost reminds me of like, I don't know, like a science fiction score or something, like really grimy and really just dark sounding, and which, I mean, everything with Justin Broderick usually is to a certain extent, but it's, yeah, I kind of agree with your slight criticism of, the first half being with More Mother and then the second half not. It almost, because I was actually going to say, it almost felt like two separate EPs on one record. And, that's cool. Like you said, they do what they want. And so there must have been a purpose, or maybe there wasn't a purpose for it. I mean, who knows? Not everything has to have a purpose,
Right.
It could have just been, that's just what they wanted to do with it. But I actually really enjoyed the second half myself. I kind of liked the separation of the two worlds. Like, it wasn't too much different. The only real difference, let's be real, is that the first half just happened to have More Mother on it.
Sure.
And I actually liked the second track, which seemed to be constantly over and over again referencing Bullet with Butterfly Wings.
Yeah. I think that was just
Nick
kind of
Cage.
like a poet taking some lines that they appreciated as sort of iconic poetry,
Right, exactly. And I like her take on it. I like the way that
For sure.
she twisted it and spend it. Spend, did I say, is that even like, yeah, spend is that even a word?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
Or it might be
forget.
spun. I don't know.
So, yeah, spun, that's
or
it.
spunned.
Yeah. Spend. Like, I just totally, like, sometimes I just forget how to talk.
Yeah, wow.
But, it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, again, though, one thing I'll say about this, I kind of have the same sort of view that I would have with, you know, like the dubby sort of stuff like this. Like, I guess it's not something that you would find in my CD player or on my turntable often, but it's definitely something that I would come back to, and I probably will come back to this record when I'm in the mood for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's total mood music for me. It's like, you know, like I feel like there would just have to be a certain occasion, whether that would be like cleaning the house, whether that would be just I need to zone out in the dark in my room and put on headphones and listen to something like this.
For sure. It's good for deep chills. Yeah, that's for sure.
Exactly. It's chill music for me. So it's not something that you're you know, like I'm not gonna be driving in my van, you know, like listening to it probably or anything like that. It's definitely just but it's a great record, and I respect anything that Justin Broderick touches.
Yeah. Nice.
And I also am going to check out some of the Bugs solo albums, because after you and Sean were talking about him last week,
Yeah.
I feel like I need to check him out. I also did not realize, and I think I texted you this, that he was part of Techno Animal.
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize that either. My only experience with Kevin Martin, is that his name? Yeah, was with the Bug.
Yeah.
So I'm only now finding out about all this other stuff that he's involved in. So that's cool. I love to have new things to check out. So
Yeah, and I only remember Techno Animal because they were affiliated with Ipecac somehow.
Right. Okay.
And I don't remember how, but I think Techno Animal was actually just Zonal. Because I think
it's Justin
Techno Animal
Broderick as well, right?
It's Justin Broderick
Yeah.
and the Bug.
Yeah.
I think is all Techno Animal. Well, not all Techno, but I think it's
Right.
Zonal must have just been them with a name change or something,
Yeah, I don't know.
or
That is
whatever.
weird.
Who knows? Yeah, it is really weird. But apparently, the Bug has put out so many records under different aliases.
Oh, yeah.
And different names and different projects that Wikipedia only has a partial discography list.
Nice.
So
Yeah. I would say both Pressure and London Zoo are just killer records. I mean, they are dub. I feel like we have focused on dub, and that's probably partially my fault. I just it's one of the things that has really kind of taken over my music listening in the last few years. So I would say between dub and the chill stuff, like I mentioned earlier with the Chromatics, that has been a huge part of what I listen to for the last few years, is just those two styles. So yeah, I'm trying to break out of it, but I swear I'll listen to something with guitars at some point. I promise.
you know what you need to say to the dub?
What's that?
Get out of here! No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Just say no to dubs.
Just say no to dub. Well, I don't know. You've listened to Cave In Until Your Heart Stops and King Gizzard and the Lizard World.
Oh man,
Lizard Wizard. And they both had guitars.
That's true. Distorted guitars at times.
Distorted guitars, yeah, at times.
Yep.
Well, Until Your Heart Stops pretty much all the time.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But Lizard World sounds like a cool place to visit. I wonder if it exists.
It's right next to Robot World in Wisconsin.
The robots and lizards are always fighting
Oh
one
my
another.
gosh.
They're like arch enemies.
So are they just tiny robots or giant lizards?
I don't know. Maybe they're tiny lizards and giant robots.
Oh, well,
but that wouldn't really be fair.
No challenge there.
Yeah, because robots seem like they could defend themselves no matter what size they are.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because, well, with robot and technology, it seems like they can always invent some way to grow bigger if they need to. But lizards don't really have that capability.
No, but
so, yeah,
they can regenerate limbs. So
that's true.
Maybe we could use that somehow to have them grow bigger.
Yeah, maybe we could.
Yeah, we could change their DNA so that if we chop their arm off, it comes back bigger. And then we just have to chop all their limbs off, and then they'd be really big. No, I don't know. I'll work on it before next week's episode.
Yeah.
In my lizard lab.
We're gonna be scientists by then.
I already got a bunch of chopped up lizards in my workshop, so I'll work on it.
The name of the next episode, Science World with Erik.
Oh God, yep. It's mostly about chopping up lizards.
We're gonna be experts. That's gonna be awesome. I've always wanted to be an expert
on that, or just anything.
If anyone's hiring experts, let me know. I have the
Yeah.
qualifications.
I'll just become an expert on whatever you need. Just let me know.
Wouldn't
Give me a month.
that would be the funniest like hiring advertisement, like now hiring experts.
Shit.
Oh man.
It's just a bunch of old white dudes like me
Yeah. They're all
mansplaining
just like,
shit.
we're experts.
Yeah, they think they're experts on everything. So
Dude, that would be amazing. We should look into that for
Oh,
sure.
my gosh.
But anyway, yeah, so you can actually follow us on Instagram now.
Yeah.
Well, you always have been able to. Dan _ ruler and also Old Man Erie. But now you can also follow us on Accelerativ Thrust.
Yep.
Actually, is the name of it Accelerativ.Thrust?
yeah, yep. That's what you
So
search and find it on Instagram under.
all _ So we have an Instagram page, an official Accelerativ Thrust Instagram page. Isn't that awesome, guys?
Yay! That was just me.
like I'm asking,
Yeah.
asking people to.
There wasn't
respond.
another listener in the back of your car right now who said that. That sounds great.
Somebody's
Dad.
like, wait, who said that? Where'd that come from?
Oh boy. But yeah.
But
yeah.
so you got that, and yeah, we got a lot of things planned. We're super stoked for
Yeah.
next week and next month. And there's we got some guests coming on that are going to be really, really fun
Yeah.
because we're a fun podcast.
Yep. That's what we're here for.
And so, yeah, we're here for fun.
And it's the
nothing
only
else.
thing we accomplish.
That's all we
It's
do.
us
is fun,
having fun.
ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not saying you're gonna have fun as a listener,
Yeah.
but
You know,
but we're not pretending to have fun right now. I don't do that. Just for the record, this is legit.
Yeah.
This is real laughter, guys.
We should start a secondary podcast where we're just totally stoic and serious all the time. And we should call it the Enough Screwing
Yeah.
Around podcast.
Yeah. That's
Get to work.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Do I pay you just to sit there and eat popcorn?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Also, Dan has a new music video out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to
yes,
tell
I
him how to
forgot.
find that? Because I'm not good at stuff like YouTube.
Well, the best two ways, because there's no way I'm going to memorize the YouTube link, is to go to my personal Instagram, Dan _ ruler, and go into the bio
There you
and
go.
click on the link tree.
Yeah.
Or you can go to YouTube and just simply type in the Outer Head Lunatics. So the Outer Head is my solo project that I've had since 2010-ish, maybe. So it's been 10 or 11 years. And there for a long time, it basically was non-existent. But I started putting out some more stuff because I learned that I can just record things lo-fi to the best of my abilities in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And it turns out pretty cool sounding, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think it sounds great. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And so, yeah, you could go type in the Outer Head Lunatics, and it might actually bring up all the other videos that I uploaded under the Outer Head YouTube channel.
Ah.
And then I got an EP coming as well. That's going to come out on April 2nd, which I actually found out is
Bandcamp Friday.
the next Bandcamp Friday.
Yeah.
So, which I actually, that wasn't intentional, but that's kind of cool that it's dropping on Bandcamp Friday. And that EP is also called Lunatics. So yeah, be on the lookout for that,
Cool.
ladies and gentlemen. And you know, it will be should be fun. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Me
So-
too. I like the first single, Lunatics.
Wow.
It's good stuff.
I appreciate it, Eric. Yeah, this is there's also no guitars on this one.
Yeah.
So there's usually guitars on my stuff.
We've heard all the guitars. I mean, come on.
Yeah. There's guitars. They've overstayed their welcome
Yeah.
in rock music.
No.
But I'll get back to guitars.
Yeah,
It's
the guitar
so funny.
bug
It's-
bit me again. So
It's so funny that quote came from me when I recommended Cave In Until Your Heart Stops.
yeah.
Like,
No, it comes and
Oh,
goes though.
jeez.
I spent a solid, I don't even know, 5 years just like looking at my guitars, and then all of a sudden it was like, now I just kind of look at my synths and I play the guitars. So it goes back and forth, you know. Just
sure, yeah, as it should. It should.
yeah.
All right, folks. I think that'll wrap up this week's podcast. You have any closing arguments?
Arguments, no. But yeah,
Okay.
you guys should check the Accelerativ Thrust Instagram. I think we'll both be more apt to post more fun things, you know, on an account that's dedicated to just this. So I think you'll see a lot more fun stuff than just us every week saying there's a new episode, you know.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. And that'll probably also be, where we will post like updates on, new episodes and our personal accounts
Yeah.
too. You know,
So
it'll be all over.
Yeah.
We're gonna take over the world. So that's our plan.
well, yeah, okay. I don't know if we discussed that, but we can take over the
didn't?
world. It's cool.
You must have just forgotten, Eric.
Oh, that happens.
Okay. Sorry about that. I guess the mutagen worked too well. Anyway. All right.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we better get going before the authorities catch us for real. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.